All right, welcome back into episode number 2 of the Rundown. As always, your host with the most, Dylan Mehl. You're either watching on the College Kids Experience or the Follow the Action YouTube channel. I appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed to both channels for the most up-to-date sports and sports betting. You don't want to miss a single post. And if you like what you hear from me here, my personal channel is as well in the description. I post daily content, sports related, NFL and NBA specifically, if you love that. Today we got a jam-packed show. We got a lot of NBA playoff coverage. There's going to be a Game 7 this Sunday on Mother's Day, so cancel your plans. And there's a team that's already punched their ticket to the conference finals, as well as 2 Game 6s tonight to preview. The MLB season's rolling, the NFL schedule leaked, and it wouldn't be an episode of the Rundown if I didn't give you 2 mediocre bets to fade at the end. But that'll be coming later. Let's start with the NBA action we saw last night, and let's start with Philadelphia. I've told you guys, they're not my team, just in the area. Keep that in mind. But the Philadelphia 76ers did get defeated last night by the Boston Celtics. The Celtics had a fourth quarter comeback. Jason Tatum, an enigma. He has not made a basket in the first half of the last 3 games. Yet here we are. The series is tied, and we're going to a Game 7 in the TD Garden. Now, Jason Tatum was 0 of 10 in the first half of this game. He's the 3rd player to ever do so, behind Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is one of them, and I forget who the other guy was, actually. But I thought it was important to note that Michael Jordan was one of the players who also went 0 for 10. I think Kevin Durant was the other one. Now, Jason Tatum, despite going 0 for 10 and only having 3 points through the first 3 quarters, had a 16-point fourth quarter, having 4 made 3-pointers, and really accelerated the Celtics to this win. The Sixers offense, as well as the Celtics offense, was really sloppy. Neither team crossing the 100-point threshold. The under soaring under 217.5 in this one. And this was a real grinded-out game. And I thought Philly was down for the count in the first half. And then when that third quarter hit and the momentum was on their side, I thought Boston was down for the count. And generally, when I watch these games, I have a really good feel for if a team is still in it or not. But the momentum in this game was just so easily swung. And the pendulum just continued back and forth. But in such a surprising way, to me at least, that I'm shocked we have a Game 7. I am shocked. I don't think that Philly is done by any means. I don't think you can look at it and say Philly's done because they've won 2 of the 3 games in Boston. They just won Game 5, and they won Game 1 without Joel Embiid. Now you have to get your best version of James Harden. You have to get your best version of Joel Embiid. And Tyrese Maxey has to continue the play that he had in Game 6. And for the Celtics, Jason Tatum needs to make a first half bucket because your best player not scoring a single field goal in the first half is not a pathway to victory, despite the fact that you're 1-2 when it happens. It's simply not a pathway to victory. Jaylen Brown should get going, and somebody else, either a Marcus Smart, an Al Horford, or a Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon was huge in this game, though. I want to show some love to the 6th man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon, because through this entire series, guy's been a consistent scorer for them. And he's the one piece that from this finals run team last year that wasn't on the team. The new addition, Malcolm Brogdon. There was worries of health and injury concerns. Was he going to stay out there? But Malcolm Brogdon has been a key contributor time after time, at home, on the road, doesn't matter. This guy has been excellent for the Boston Celtics. And I don't have too much analysis per se of this game. You know, when you get to a Game 6 in a series, you kind of know what each team is doing. We're kind of past the point of adjustments, and it's who can outplay each other, really. We know that Joel Embiid and James Harden are relying on the pick and roll. Celtics are relying on a lot of ball movement, some screen off-ball action. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown isolation ball. James Harden isolation ball. Extra pass to a guy on the wing, whether that be PJ Tucker, Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton. We know what these two teams are, and we know what their scheme against each other is. I do want to bring up the conversation, though, of if Boston wins this series, what does that do for the Sixers' future? Is James Harden out the door? I'm not sure. That one is really an internal, how does the locker room feel? Do they feel if Joel was healthy, they would have won? Does James even care about winning? Or does he want to go be the star of the show in Houston? Do they bring in another piece? Are they looking to upgrade in the front office? Daryl Morey, James Harden's his guy. Is he going to decide that he can't win with James Harden? Those are questions that I think may be determined based on a Game 7 performance. But here's what I will say. If they lose, no matter how they lose, Doc Rivers should be fired. And I believe Doc Rivers would be fired. This is another 3-2 blown series lead. Doc Rivers has the most 3-1 blown series lead in NBA history. He has 3 of them. No other NBA coach has more than 1. If the 76ers lose this series, Doc Rivers has got to go. Now, we had 2 games last night, and one team punched their ticket to the conference finals with a Game 6 road victory. Of course, I'm speaking about the Denver Nuggets. Listen, did the college kids experience give you the Nuggets to win the title at plus 2,100 before the start of the season? Did they give you the Nuggets to win the Western Conference at the start of the season? Yes, they did. Round of applause. Round of applause for the college kids. Do I think that these bets are going to pan out for them? No. But value's value. And they're the experts. I'm just a guy with a microphone. But I don't think we'll get into it a little later. But let's talk about this game and overall how the Nuggets won this series. And if you've been following me on my channel, you know exactly where I'm going with this. The Suns simply were not deep enough. The Chris Paul injury thinned the roster out even more. And to the point where their roster, DeAndre Ayton, didn't even play. I'm not sure if Ayton quit or Monty benched him, but I promise you it wasn't the made-up injury that they gave him. DeAndre Ayton has played his last game in a Phoenix Sun uniform. Believe that. Believe that. And the reason the Suns lost is because with such limited talent around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, it had to be A+ from them every single night against this Denver team. Meanwhile, Denver is able to go on the road and have a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope lead them in first half scoring. Do you see the difference in these two teams? Do you see where one was built for the long haul, while another, yes, had, you could argue, 2 of the 3 best players in the series? But when you list the other 10, Denver, 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 you get it. The Denver Nuggets were simply the better team. And yeah, they won, so it's easy to say that, but they had the better roster. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, a lot of people put the pressure on the Suns that it had to be this year. I disagree. I think that this team was a next year game plan. Chris Paul will regress, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are a good enough duo that if Chris Paul is a quality role player, which he will be, and they can get surrounded with some more shooting, decent bigs, and a decent bench, they'll be scary. And you're going to flip DeAndre Ayton for 2 role players that are older. You're going to have cap space this offseason to bring in some bench guys. And this team's going to be better next year than it was this year. The only question next year will again be what the question was this year. Chris Paul and Kevin Durant stay healthy. But the Suns will be back, and they'll be able to solve the depth issue, I believe. And as for the Nuggets, looking ahead, we don't know who they're playing yet. And it's two very different matchups. Whether it's Golden State completing a 3-1 comeback, which I believe is not likely. You have to deal with Steph, Clay, and Poole, and Wiggins, and a lot of perimeter action. For the Lakers, with AD, LeBron, D'Lo, Reeves, and a lot of interior action. So the Nuggets aren't really at a point where they can scheme ahead, because these are two very, very different teams. You play the Lakers, LeBron and AD are going to put you in that high pick and roll all game, Jokic. And perhaps that's something they can prepare for, because the Warriors have been finding success putting AD in the high pick and roll. Maybe they do the same with Jokic. With this Denver team, Jokic doesn't make All-NBA first team. Jokic doesn't win the MVP when he has an argument for it for this season in a vacuum. A lot of people saying that they have to prove it. Now, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. A round of applause to the Denver Nuggets. Now, let's take a look at these series tonight. 2 Game 6s. Dylan, do we get another Game 7 this Sunday? I'm going to lean on the side of no. I think that the Lakers close it out tonight. Let's look at how the Lakers' playoffs run have gone. Versus Memphis, steal Game 1 on the road, get blown out Game 2, destroy them Game 3, win a close Game 4, get blown out on the road in Game 5, destroy them Game 6. Look at this Warriors series. Win Game 1 on the road, get blown out in Game 2, blow them out in Game 3, win a close Game 4, get blown out in Game 5. You seeing a pattern here? This Lakers team is better than both Memphis and Golden State. They're deeper, they're much better defensively, and they have 2 of the 3 best players in the series for the Golden State, and in my opinion, they're the 2 best players in the series in the Memphis series. This Lakers team, I've been on them since the trade deadline. I put in my bets. Plus 1,700 for them to win a conference, plus 4,000 for them to win the finals. Those bets were put in by me at the All-Star break. Guys, we have to accept what the Lakers are. No, you guys like to hate on LeBron. It's cool to hate on the Lakers. But they're good. They're that team. And they're going to beat Golden State tonight. If you're watching this video on Saturday, you're probably sitting there, man, this Dylan guy, he's spot on. The Lakers did beat Golden State. And they did win by 10 to 15. It wasn't particularly close. They came out with a lot of energy. These are things that I'm telling you. LeBron's going to have a good game. And Anthony Davis, after hearing all that shit talking from Shaq and Chuck and Stephen A. and JaMychal Green putting the cap emoji on LeBron. You guys are poking the bear. And you're cashing, you're filling out checks that you're expecting Steph Curry to cash. And it's always been the case for this Warriors team versus LeBron. His teammates continually write checks that he has to cash. But the truth is, he doesn't have help. Klay Thompson's been abysmal the last 3 games. Draymond Green and Gary Payton had offensive explosions in Game 5. Are you betting that Gary Payton and Draymond Green are productive again on the offensive end? And Andrew Wiggins had a monster game. And despite all that, when Anthony Davis went down with an injury, the Lakers were not playing any defense all night. They were playing lackadaisical. The offense, they were getting no calls. They weren't getting the foul calls. Yet they were within 7. Home crowd, home whistle, more energy on both ends of the ball. The Lakers are going to win Game 6. And as for Miami, New York, listen, I think it's nice that Jalen Brunson played 48 minutes and led the Knicks to a win, but this is the same story here. Jimmy Butler had a bad game, objectively, and Miami was still in it till the very end. Miami's going to close this out in 6. We're going to get Miami waiting for Game 7, and we're going to be looking at Nuggets, Lakers. And a tidbit that I want to point out here is, if the Celtics win, and as I mentioned, Lakers, Miami go on, it'll be the exact same Final Four as the bubble. So for all the people that call it a Mickey Mouse ring and say it doesn't count, ah, shit. Here we go again. Let's talk a little baseball. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on the diamond. A little MLB update for you. So I want to play a little game this week. So I'm going to introduce the game by talking about my Yankees, because it's my show. And the Yankees, they've been starting to figure it out on the offensive end. I know that they got shelled last night by the Tampa Bay Rays. Let's put the Rays aside. They are clearly a fantastic team, and right now, the odds-on favorite to come out of the AL. But since bringing Harrison Bader back, and bringing Aaron Judge back over the last week, Anthony Volpe's been finding his swing. Anthony Rizzo is one of 5 first basemen with enough plate appearances, batting over 300. And Carlos Stanton could be back from injury soon. The team is coming together at the bats. Now Severino started pitching. You might get a real consistent pitching rotation finally out of this team. If they're in the AL Central, they are currently in first place with their record. But they are in the AL East, which is an absolute dogfight right now, at 21-16. And they are in last place. I have faith that this team will figure it out. So the game that I want to play today is other higher value teams at the start of the year. Do I have faith that they'll figure it out? Or is it kaputs for them? Done. Starting with the other team in New York, the New York Mets. And this is probably the hardest one to answer. Do I have faith that the Mets will figure it out? I'm going to lean yes. And here's why. They were a 100-win team last year, right? The roster, in terms of batting, pretty much the same. And in terms of pitching, you didn't have DeGrom last year. You haven't had Verlander for much of this year. And you've substituted a lot of guys, but the pitching is relatively also the same. The wins just haven't fallen your way in this early season. But consistently, this team has been a playoff team and been a really good regular season team for the past 5 years. You still have Pete Alonso, Lindor, Verlander, Scherzer. I could go down the whole roster, but you get it. The Mets still have really, really good quality players. Do I think that they win their division? No, but I thought the Braves were going to win that division from the start of the year. But can they jump the Phillies and the Marlins? Yes, I believe so. I still have belief in the New York Mets. And speaking of that division, let's go with the Phillies. The Phillies are a team I'm more worried about. And I know, Philly fans getting ready to jump down my throat, but hear me out. This is a team last year that was not a regular season team. They got into the playoffs in the wild card, and yes, in a playoff format, they are a very dangerous team with that lineup. The pitching was the problem last year, and yes, they got off to a very slow start last year. So am I writing them off? By no means. But if I had to pick the Mets or the Phillies to bet on making the playoffs, I'd be taking the Mets. Now, the Phillies do have the momentum of Bryce Harper returning. Got a quality win over Toronto, which as a Yankees fan, thank you very much. And, they got to work it out. But again, very similar team to last year. The San Diego Padres. This is probably one of the 2 teams that I'm most confident in figuring it out. This is a brand new lineup. People playing brand new positions. Pitching rotation is roughly the same, but they're in a weak division. I don't expect Arizona to keep up staying hot. The Giants are bad. The Rockies are bad. The Padres will figure it out. The Astros, another team, they're going to figure it out. They still don't have Jose Altuve back. They had a really slow start, but they're pressing the Angels for second place right now. They beat them in the series this week 2-1. The Astros and Padres, those are my 2 most confident, high-level, high-value teams that'll bring it back. The Seattle Mariners, I'm not so sure. I'm going to lean out on the Mariners. And that may be a controversial opinion. But I think the Rangers are legit. I think the Astros are legit. That's 2 teams in your division. Real tough to get 3 in the playoffs. And you're not even third best right now. The Angels are. Meanwhile, a whole AL East of teams that I just mentioned. The Yankees are in last at 21-16. The Mariners got to jump 4 of them and the Angels to get in the playoffs right now. Sorry, 3 of them and the Angels. 4 teams total. I don't see it happening. I don't see the Mariners finishing with a better record than Toronto, Baltimore, the Rangers, the Yankees, and that's 4. Didn't even say the Rays there. Just had the Rays auto winning the division. Mariners, I'm out. And the Cardinals. I mean, if you're not out on the Cardinals at this point, they're last place in the NL Central. I don't know what happened. This team was a team I was high on coming into this season, but they have been an abject disaster. Absolute disaster. I'm out. Let me know in the comment section, though, how you feel about those teams. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL schedule. A little bit about the NFL schedule. I don't want to jump too much into it because this is going to be a highlight segment of next week's show. So if you want to see a full NFL schedule preview, we're talking what teams over under bets we're taking. Check out next week's show. But my first thoughts, starting with the Philadelphia Eagles. I got the schedules pulled up on my phone here, so if you see me looking down, that's why. But the Eagles' schedule, listen, there's a very real possibility they start off 9-0. The only true 2 tough games that I see at the beginning of the year are Jets and Dolphins. Now, they have a real brutal schedule. After the Week 10 bye, at Kansas City, versus Buffalo, versus San Francisco, at Dallas, versus Seattle. That is a 5-game, tough month of November into December. Tough sledding. But with the way that the schedule panned out, even if they went 2-3, you're sitting around 10-11 wins at that point. The Eagles will be fine. They'll definitely be back in the playoffs, but that is a tough 5-week stretch. Some other thoughts. The Lions getting the opening night game. I think, Jared Goff and Pat Mahomes, they've had offensive duels before. Defenses are usually sloppy to start the year. So are offenses. But enough skill players. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney. These are playmakers. With Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball. Do I think the Chiefs win? Of course. But I think it should be a very good game. The first game for Aaron Rodgers is against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football at MetLife. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, seeing a primetime matchup already. I worry for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers needs to show up this summer. They got some real tough games to start the year. But overall, I'm excited for the NFL schedule. Adding a Black Friday game and a Christmas triple header. I get it. You want as many days on the calendar as possible for NFL football. But one of the things, and Nick Wright brought this up on his podcast, so I don't want to take too much credit for it. But one of the things about the NFL that's so different from every other sports league is the feeling of you can't miss a game. You can't miss a single game. You can't miss a single Sunday. You start adding more days to the calendar, like the NBA, like the MLB, games become missable. Oh, honey, you missed the game last Sunday. Can't we go apple picking? It's going to start to happen. Tread the line carefully, NFL. Tread the line carefully. But now, the main event segment of the show. Perhaps what you've all been waiting for. The best bets. Last week on my NBA bets, I went 1-1. We're locking in Lakers minus 2.5. I mean, you had to know this was coming from the way that I talked about it earlier. The Lakers minus 2.5. It's easy. It's peasy. We are letting it roll. LeBron, Anthony Davis at home. The Lakers 5-0 at the Crypt. They haven't lost a home game since March. It's May. We're rolling with the Lakers. And lastly, the last bet we're rolling with in a Game 7 this Sunday, James Harden over 8.5 assists. Give it to me. James Harden's going to look to be aggressive, going to look to be himself. The pick and roll with Embiid. James Harden over 8.5 assists. Our 2 weekend plays, Lakers -2.5 tonight. So you better watch this episode the day it comes out. But if you missed it, you could still roll with us. James Harden -8.5. As always, for all your betting, check out the Philly Godfather on Twitter, the College Kids Experience on Twitter. You'll see who they're retweeting and not retweeting, and those are the guys. The website is linked in the description. Subscribe to the Follow the Action YouTube channel. Subscribe to the College Kids Experience channel. And if you like hearing me run my mouth, subscribe to my personal channels. All links in the description for everything you need there. I will see you next week. Peace.